This property runs this community. A lot of people from this community work here. They're proud of this. This has got a lot of history here. And then when you think about the beauty with the hills, the mountains, the trees, the water.
One thing about this place is one of the words he kept saying, family. It's a place that when my family, everyone comes, they treat you like family. They treat you like you're one of their own. And it's, obviously when you look at the place, you look at the rooms, everything, it's like taking a step back in time. And I think that's an absolutely amazing place to be able to put your phone down and slow everything down. I mean, the world these days is so fast. Everything has to get done so quickly. And every time I've come here with my family at Greenbrier, it's like everything stops and it's slow motion. You actually get to enjoy life, enjoy your time with family.
Just this place feels like I'm a kid again. You get out here and you see nature, you see the trails, you see going on a hike. I grew up in Fresno. We go up to the mountains every once in a while, and that's just kind of what it feels like a little bit. And obviously it's more forested here and whatnot, but the 58, I don't know how to explain it, just kind of semi-blacked out, you can kind of say. It was one of those moments where the last 4 holes, I was obviously trying to win a tournament, but it started to rain, and I just kept focusing on my game. I didn't get outside of this bubble that I created with myself. I just wanted to focus on hitting the next best shot. And I think that's what really pushed me on to focusing on obviously winning the tournament, but to shoot in the 50s and then ultimately make the 40-foot on the last hole for 58. That was just the cherry on top. And what a special moment, a special place in my heart forever, and probably one of the most special moments of my entire life.
Yes, time to rise and grind on the early line. Thursday, August 15th, 2024, the halfway point of August. And are we set to start some NFL action preseason week number 2? You betcha. The Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots will take the field tonight. Maybe you'll see some starters on both sides. Maybe some of these teams have traded away starters they thought would be impactful. We'll get to that in just a little bit. The Major League Baseball card today, a little bit of games in this afternoon, a little bit of games tonight, but we got a lot to go over from what happened last night, which includes, my Philadelphia Phillies actually picked up a win with a Schwarber grand slam. We had Aaron Judge knocking his 300th home run out of the ballpark here, and so many other things, which include the WNBA getting back started tonight. Caitlin Clark, we certainly missed you. And away we go into the show. Look, Ben Stevens is supposed to be with me right now. He's back there. He's getting ready. A little bit of technical difficulties. It's no big deal, people. We got you covered. We'll have some fun over the next 3 hours. Let's get it started here in the 7-on-7. Yes, 7-on-7, I said. That's football talk, baby, because it's really the 7-and-7. Let's get to it. J.J. McCarthy, what happened to him? What a shame. Not going to be playing this season due to a knee injury that took place in his first preseason game. And by the way, guys, did he look good in that preseason game? He absolutely did. So now we're focusing on the regular season. It's going to be Sam Darnold as the starting quarterback. Now, if you're saying to yourselves, what are we looking forward to this season as a Minnesota Vikings fan? I don't know at this point. You're hoping Darnold is a good quarterback, but the whole point of the season was to draft a young rookie quarterback, get his feet wet, and at the end of the season, reevaluate in free agency, and maybe you would be able to take control of that division, which now is the Chicago Bears on the rise. The Detroit Lions could be a force for some time to come, and you see that Ian Rappaport tweet right there, full meniscus repair this morning, and it's out for the 2024 season. We talked about this injury yesterday. We were waiting to see what was going to take place because they didn't know the full extent of the injury until they went under the knife. Once they went under the knife, they were going to determine what's the prognosis was going to be, and it looks like it was the worst case scenario. But not all is lost. Still a young quarterback, a bright future ahead of him. You saw him tweet yesterday, go on Instagram and say, basically everything is going to be okay. It's just a shame for the Minnesota Vikings. A lot of promise this year in that young quarterback. If he took the reins, that's now not going to happen. Also, other news across the NFL. Matthew Judon of the New England Patriots He's on the move, traded for a third-round draft pick to the Atlanta Falcons. What does this do for the Falcons? Bolsters up that pass rush. I've told you many times, I do think the Atlanta Falcons are the best team in the NFC South. This is certainly going to go a long way. This is the new day and age of sports. Many people will wake up and say, now, hold on now. You have a premier pass rusher, 4-time Pro Bowler that's on the move. What did you get back to New England to restart your franchise? A first, a second, a first, and a player? No. It was a third-round draft pick. Why? He's 32 years old. Will he help this year for the Atlanta Falcons? Absolutely. But what's the main indicator of so many trades that go down in the NFL? It's the price point. He probably wanted a ton of money, and if you are the New England Patriots, you're saying to yourself, we're predicted to be maybe the worst team in the NFL. So laying out 30, 40, or $50 million in guaranteed money to a defensive end, we can win and lose the same just without you at this point. Love the move for the Atlanta Falcons, but understand the move for the New England Patriots. And also, talking about the Patriots for this season, it's not like they have a lot of talent to deal with. Was maybe Matthew Judon the best overall player on that football team? Now is not going to be there. And before he would have gotten traded, you heard me say the least talented team in the NFL just lost even more talent. Tough scene for Gerard Mayo. But this is why you're the head coach. This is why you're getting paid a lot of money. And in the NFL, much like the NBA, the NHL, and other professional sports, sometimes you're just hired to be fired, and that could be the case. Moving on with Aaron Judge, Major League Baseball smashed his 300th career home run yesterday against the lowly White Sox. And here's the best part about it. When you're playing on a baseball team that literally has 2 MVP quality guys, that's Aaron Judge, obviously, and then Juan Soto in front of you, sometimes you just have to pick your poison. And it was funny after the game to see Grady Sizemore talking about, well, you know what? It's a tough scenario. Yeah, we intentionally walked Juan Soto to get to Aaron Judge, which is insane. And what does he quickly do? Make him pay. That's how things work in Major League Baseball. Aaron Judge having an absolutely sensational season, but how about the fastest in Major League Baseball history to get to home run number 300? We talked about him at the beginning of the year, coming back this season. Will the injuries, will that toe linger? It certainly hasn't happened here. And Juan Soto in front of him, being that protection, getting on base repeatedly, has certainly helped Aaron Judge. He doesn't see very many baseballs anymore to hit, much like Barry Bonds back in the day. But when you do pitch to Aaron Judge and he's ready to crank one, he certainly can do that. The Yankees with a big, easy victory yesterday over the Chicago White Sox. Moving on. What did we tell you yesterday on the early line, people? Ride out those streaks, and certainly the Houston Astros did that yesterday. 2-1, low-scoring game in the Trop. That's what we anticipated and expected here. So Houston now saying to us, we look like we are the best team in the AL West. We can do damage. We have that championship pedigree down here. If you're looking at Yordan Alvarez, I wanted him to get an RBI. He didn't do that. There was only 2 RBI, but having said that, that's a big-time win for the Houston Astros because now the Texas Rangers probably out of the mix. We know the Oakland Athletics are done. We know the Angels aren't going to be any chance of rising in the AL West. So it comes down the stretch with the Mariners and also the Houston Astros. If you're just looking again for that playoff pedigree, the Houston Astros certainly have that. But another victory here, how long is that streak going to last? 9 games, 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. Could they be the hottest team in baseball entering the month of September? That would be insane. Also, taking a look at some guys that could be on the way back. Verlander on the mound. If he comes back, that certainly could be a boon for the Houston Astros. But good things happening. And I just look, some egg on my face. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago, I was telling you the Houston Astros were absolutely buried. That's not the case anymore. Maybe the hottest team right now in baseball, looking to surge into double digits with that win streak here. The Arizona Diamondbacks, can anybody stop them at this point? An 11-4 victory over the Colorado Rockies yesterday. If you take a look at the pitching performances, Montgomery, solid on the mound, 6 innings pitched and 3 earned runs. Here's what I'd like to talk to you guys about. Remember going over yesterday saying, boy, Jordan Montgomery is maybe I don't say the worst pitcher on the card, but a bottom 5 pitcher on my card yesterday analytically. You were taking a look at Gordon on the mound. Maybe he would be that guy that could be solid. He drops to 0-4. Why? 2/3 of an innings pitched, 4 runs, 3 of those earned, and 2 walks. Not a great start, but that lineup for the Arizona Diamondbacks on a day-to-day basis, when they are lining up against right-handed pitching, just about every single one of those guys has been flat out dominant. Look forward to the Arizona Arizona Diamondbacks. This is a team that got hot at the right time last year, took down my Philadelphia Phillies, made it to the World Series, got out to a snail's pace crawl here in 2024, now hitting that gas pedal. It's the Dodgers, it's the Diamondbacks, and it's the Padres. Absolutely filthy out there in the NL West, the hottest division in baseball. Let's see how that one certainly turns down the list. Hamstring injuries, people. Your boy DRS knows quite a bit about those. And when everybody just says, don't you worry about it, that's the time you need to worry about it. Matthew Stafford of the Los Angeles Rams leaves practice early against the Dallas Cowboys due to a hamstring injury. This wouldn't be anything that we would even pay any attention to if we were talking about late July, very early in August, but now we're roughly, let's just say, 2.5 weeks away from the regular season, an aging quarterback with a hamstring injury. Now, if you say, if there's one quarterback that can probably handle a hamstring injury who's tough as nails, it would be Matthew Stafford. But trust me on this, if it's anything serious, whether it's the plant foot, whether it's the escape hatch out of the pocket, left or right, that's going to be a problem. Because the one thing that the trainers will need you to do is be able to protect yourself as a football player. If you cannot get out of the way of the pass rush, you're not going to be protecting very much out here. And also, Mark Andrews of the Ravens. You want to talk about off-the-field injuries here? None could be more devastating than an auto accident. My goodness, he gets into a serious accident. Not a scrape on Mark Andrews. Coming off that tough season last year where he looked like he was one of the best tight ends in football, as the Ravens were the best team in football at the end of the season, gets injured. Now he's back. Thank goodness nothing happened to him. And by the way, we're talking about those auto crashes, or should I say car crashes in football. Remember the crazy one a couple years ago with Cam Newton out there where they actually had like photographers on the scene and nothing happened to Cam? My goodness, some of these football players, superhuman and getting lucky just when we need. Mark Andrews should be back, should be fine for the Baltimore Ravens as they start their 2024 season. More hot topics ahead right here on the early line. It's your boy DRS. I don't know, maybe a little solo mission for a while. We'll have some fun, I promise you. Keep the dial right here, Sirius XM channel 159, and we'll be right back after these words.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Right back at it here on the early line. Donnie right side here, solo mission. We will get Ben Stevens back in the studio as soon as possible. The hot topics certainly continue just to keep running. And maybe the hottest topic yesterday was J.J. McCarthy of the Minnesota Vikings, turning out that we were waiting to see, and we were looking at several tweets, how extensive this injury was actually going to be and how this could impact the Minnesota Vikings 2024 season. Now, going back to the offseason, we love the fact, or I should say most football fans said, you know what, that makes some sense. In order to have a really good franchise, what do you guys have to have? A franchise quarterback. J.J. McCarthy was the ultimate winner in high school, the ultimate winner in college, still a young player. It's not he's coming to the league like it's Chris Wenke at 26 or 27, very early, I believe 20, maybe 21 years old. We would have a long, long list of what he could certainly accomplish in the NFL if he became a starting quarterback, which were the expectations of a first-round pick. The only shocking thing when we were starting to see like some of the depth charts coming out was, would J.J. McCarthy be the starting quarterback right away for the Minnesota Vikings? The one thing I do know is if we were talking to Jim Harbaugh, his previous head coach at the University of Michigan, who's now the head coach of the Los Angeles Chargers, what was he saying? Maybe the best winner he's ever been around at the quarterback position. And I started joking, okay, you know what? Maybe they'll trade Justin Herbert because they want J.J. McCarthy. Obviously, we knew that wasn't going to be feasible for the Chargers. So he does wind up with the Minnesota Vikings, which was intriguing. Other teams may be looking around to get him, like the New York Giants, just to say, you know what, we need a winner here. Commanding the pocket, commanding the huddle, being a leader of men. And you saw him in that first preseason game. The ability to throw the deep ball, the ability to run an offense, the ability to handle the football team without starters and still look competent. That's a big deal for a rookie quarterback. But also keep in mind, you were operating here from a quarterback that opened up his preseason with an interception, and it didn't shake him one bit. You love to see that. You want to see the adversity here. You want to see the kid want to succeed and have a terrible start to your preseason in your first NFL action, and then rebound with that type of performance. If you watch the game live or just watch the highlights, Justin Jefferson didn't play. He was in street clothes on the sideline, running up and down the sideline, mic'd up, knowing that J.J. McCarthy was ripping off deep ball after deep ball and probably saying, you know what? I think we found ourselves a franchise guy. Didn't have any words for the wear after the game, but the next day shows up back to training camp. Hey, coach, something is wrong with my knee. They check him out here. Goes under the knife, and there could have been instances where he would be out, let's just say 4 to 6 weeks, 4 to 7 weeks, 4 to 8 weeks, something in that range. Now it turns out they open it up and figure it was best to do a full reconstruction of that meniscus, and J.J. McCarthy now is going to be out for the season. Now, me, as a handicapper, was I high on the Minnesota Vikings in the 2024 season coming into it? Not necessarily, but we told you repeatedly, when you're drafting that high and getting a quarterback in the first round, your record really doesn't matter during that season, unless it's like the Green Bay Packers and what they had, luckily, over the past 20 to 25 years with Aaron Rodgers and Brett Favre and Jordan Love, where it's like, you know what? We expect to be good. We're just drafting a quarterback for down the line. The Minnesota Vikings weren't drafting a quarterback for down the line. They were drafting J.J. McCarthy because they believe he could be the starting quarterback from day number one. And quite frankly, it looked like he might even be on that trajectory. Now, granted, when you take a look at the schedule, the perfect landing spot for J.J. McCarthy, honestly, maybe would have been game number one at the New York Giants on that schedule. But then San Francisco 49ers, the Houston Texans, the Green Bay Packers, a neutral site game against the New York Jets in London before you hit that bye week, and then take on the Detroit Lions, who have playoff and Super Bowl aspirations here. So when was going to be that perfect time if Sam Darnold did start at quarterback? Would it have been after the bye? And also, with the injury itself to J.J. McCarthy, maybe you were saying now, okay, the pressure's off the organization, the pressure's off the coach, and also your young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, where he could find a landing spot after injury somewhere around weeks 9, 10, 11, or 12 if you were not technically in the playoff hunt. It would have been a great spot because he still would have been around the football team, still able to get back on the practice field. But now when you enter into the IR, you're done for the season. You're basically off of the practice field, and that whole rookie season is a scrap. We talk about this a lot with the Indianapolis Colts. When you say to yourself, okay, Anthony Richardson last year, he's technically entering into his second season. At least he got a little bit of gameplay last year early on before being knocked out for the year. There's still question marks. Can Anthony Richardson be the franchise guy? He didn't get a long look at him during his rookie season. He didn't get that off season where it's like, okay, I took a few hundred snaps this season in the National Football League. Now I'm ready to be the true starting quarterback of of the Colts here. We'll find out with him a little bit later if that injury really messed up going into his sophomore season. But for J.J. McCarthy, you can get those mental reps all you want, but nothing is going to replace being in the game. And also the question marks come up with Sam Darnold. I do think Sam Darnold could be a capable quarterback here. I do think he can run that offense. The offensive coordinator, head coach there in Minnesota, very good with Kevin O'Connell. I do think that's a problem offense if you have a quarterback that can deliver. You also take a look at Addison out there at wide receiver. We thought he might have been done for the year with getting carted off the field. He should be fine, hopefully, for opening day. And then you have JJ on the other side here. That is going to be an absolute phenomenal. Jay Jettas, as I should say, Justin Jefferson on the opposite side. That should be dominant. Now, the thing to look forward to here for the Minnesota Vikings is value is in the eye of the beholder. What are we taking a look at? Because if we look at their win total, it's 5.5 games at a plus 184 juice here. Now, if you look for them to get 6 wins, it might not even be a bad thing at this point. It really, actually 7.5, excuse me, as the change up there. Like, let's just say 7 wins to 8 wins here. What were the expectations if J.J. McCarthy held the reins the entire season? Is that a slight knock? Because rookies are going to take their bumps. Maybe one of the best quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL. Who was that? That was Peyton Manning. Almost 30 interceptions as a rookie. So maybe you have a veteran presence in Sam Darnold. And I'm not saying we're going to rewrite the record books with the guy, but he could be a competent starter. You have a solid running back, a solid tight end, an average offensive line. We'll see if they can step up this season. But the wide receiver position, as long as you have Addison back and Jefferson healthy, they should be able to move the football. Why not? Like, take a look at the Detroit Lions defense. It's not great. You take a look at the Bears defense. We'll see if they step up to the plate. The Packers do have a solid defense here, but there's no reason to believe that offense can't move the football. So for me, in game number 1, forget about the season itself, I do like the Vikings there. Slight favorite of the New York Giants. Now you have a quarterback that you're placing and saying, okay, J.J. McCarthy, I don't have to look over my shoulder, right? It's just going to be me this season. I'm going to get the playbook here. It's going to be specifically tailored directly to me as Sam Darnold. That's not a bad option. I do like the Vikings in week number 1. On the season, once again, I didn't think that the Vikings were going to have a sensational year either way, depending on which quarterback started. But now I'm starting to see a veteran quarterback that maybe you can get to that 8-win total here for the Vikings. Not all is lost. I understand as a fan base, it's a tough scene. It's just what happens in the NFL. Injuries happen. This is the early line on a Thursday morning, and we'll be right back after these words.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Hour number one in full effect right here for the early line on a Thursday morning. It's your boy Donnie right side here, 8/15/2024. We're halfway through the month of August. Are you excited about the NFL? And how about this weekend? Get your time in, get your rest, get your relaxation, because next week, it's college football season. College football today, pro football today after that. And away we go into an exciting regular season in both college football and professional ranks. But still, we are starting to iron out some of these issues with certain football teams. You say, Donnie, what are you talking about here? Still, players are upset. Some players want contracts, and some players now officially on the move. Ian Rappaport tweeted yesterday, sources, the Patriots are trading pass rusher Matthew Judon to the Falcons, landing Atlanta a standout on defense. It's a third rounder going back. So it says, breaking news, and that was breaking news. The one thing that we do know is Matthew Judon was very upset with his contract situation in New England, but I can't fault New England for this. Sometimes you take a look at and equate to it. Let's just say CeeDee Lamb. We know how much he means to that Dallas Cowboys offense and to that football team. Led the league last year in absolute receptions. Phenomenal talent. Available for a contract. Wanted to get his contract done. It's not there. But from a Cowboys perspective, they really need him. Like, for them to have a winning season, CeeDee Lamb has to be there and happy. So let's go back to Matthew Judon. Great football player, 4-time Pro Bowler, a solid addition to your defense for anybody in the NFL. So you say to yourselves, on one of the least talented teams in the NFL with a new head coach that's a defensive-minded head coach, I really need as many good pass rushers as I can possibly get. Matthew Judon now on the move to the Atlanta Falcons, who for me, I think is the best team in the NFC South that just got better. That move for the Atlanta Falcons, that makes a lot of sense. If your goal is to win the division, forget about the Super Bowl. Oh, Donnie, why would Atlanta make that move? They can't win the Super Bowl. Stop it. The goal for the team is to win the division, get a home playoff game, and see if you can do some damage in the playoffs. Matthew Judon for a third-round pick to Atlanta at 32 years old made absolute sense. Their window is right now with Kirk Cousins. They think they can win 10-plus games and that division and get to the playoffs, and you can't win the Super Bowl unless you get to the playoffs. But from a New England perspective, why didn't we get this done a little bit earlier? Why did we do this before the draft? Why did we trade Matthew Judon at the draft for maybe even a higher pick, a second or a third rounder? Now, the reason why he went with a third rounder, Donnie, why would such a good player only go for a third rounder? Do the New England Patriots know something we don't? Yes, he's 32 years old, and the team is going to stink. So obviously, you're looking to move on because what were you going to win? 4.5 games with Matthew Judon? What about without him? Yeah, 4.5 games. It's not that big of a deal. They had to move on. They weren't going to pay that big salary. They found a team that would take him and certainly is going to be better for it, but also you get the third-round compensation pick back, maybe a tank in this year, maybe get those high draft picks, and away you move on. The Matthew Judon situation made absolute sense for the Patriots, even though it looks like they got back nothing. Whether or not they had Matthew Judon this year wasn't going to happen or wasn't going to be fruitful for them. And in 2 to 3 years, if you still sign Judon to a big contract, by the time you get good, what is he, 35 years old? Stop it here. They had to move on. Other big news in the NFL we were talking about yesterday certainly was a deal. It's early in the preseason. We still have 2.5 weeks left to go. The teams have not played their second games outside of 2 teams in the NFL in the preseason, the Hall of Fame game. How about Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford experiencing hamstring tightness and didn't finish the practice? Now, granted, you like to see that where if you feel something in the hamstring, shut it down, don't fight through it. I've had a history of hamstring injuries myself, and one of the more quirky hamstring injuries in sports is the wide receiver or the running back because they're built on quick twitch muscles. How many times after a game, it's nothing. Just felt my hamstring grab a little bit. I'll be back next week, only to see that player to be out 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks here. But Matthew Stafford is a competent veteran quarterback that operates from the pocket. But you still have to be able to dodge some of those elite, talented pass rushers in the NFL. If you cannot protect yourself, you're going to end up getting injured worse. Now, he still has a few weeks to recover for this, and maybe just as a mild one where he says, you know what? I'm not going to sprint out left or right. We're not going to have any naked bootlegs in the pocket where I'm going to have to run 30 yards. I just need to slide left and right, operate out of the shotgun. I should be okay. It's never a good thing because hamstring injuries, if they're not treated appropriately, meaning getting that rest time and you force your way back, can turn into even longer term injuries. So looking from a Rams perspective here, they're going to need a healthy Matthew Stafford right out of the gate. Now, the evaluations will come, and Sean McVay is going to tell us it's no big deal. But then again, when's the next time we're going to see Matthew Stafford on the field? And also during these installation practices, which so many times, guys, you have in training camp just to getting to know your younger wide receivers and your offensive line and making those calls. Once again, you can get all the mental reps you want, but being out there with your teammates in that huddle, a completely different scenario. You want to be playing your best football at the end of training camp, not just coming back to the huddle at the end of training camp. We'll see if that happens for the Rams and Matthew Stafford. Major League Baseball, what happened yesterday? The early line, we're going to let you know next.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Look, it is August 15th, and I know we are so hyped for the NFL football season and college football to start within basically a week and a half's time. We got plenty of time for that. So the months of late August, September, October, November, December, January, February, I mean, that's crazy. And by the way, talking about college football real quickly here, just seeing that the national championship game is January the 20th. Are we close to basically having like a super weekend between the NFL and college football where, can you imagine a national championship game on that Saturday in early February, followed by the Super Bowl on a Sunday? Come on. Look, you make me the commissioner of sports. I'm telling you, everything will improve. What a weekend with that. And also, look, I know you probably can't make me president of the United States, but that would be a national holiday Monday. We'd have the day off. You can't, like, that type of football weekend, nobody's going to be able to work on a Monday. Absolutely not. Watching that thing. But having said that, we digress in the Major League Baseball. The reason I wanted to bring up football is don't forget about baseball. Now, through the dog days of August, which we're in right now, everybody tends to forget about baseball in September. And I can't fault you for that because you are in the swing of the NFL season and college football. But then October baseball sort of gets us lit again. So it feels like we have 2 weeks left of the baseball season for anybody to pay attention to it before football takes over. And then it reappears in the first week of October. Now, two teams that we think are going to reappear in the months of October, that's the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers. 5-4 victory yesterday for the Brewers. And I was telling you on the show yesterday, I didn't really care what the starting pitching matchup was. The Dodgers were hot at the plate, and I was going to ride that out. And if you ask me my vibes for the end of the first inning, 3-0 Los Angeles Dodgers over the Milwaukee Brewers. But coming back in the return of a starting pitcher that you think is going to help you down the stretch and maybe win playoff games, that's Walker Buehler. Shame he got injured, a year and a half ago at this point now. This was one of the young up-and-coming guys that you expected to be challenging for Cy Young's year in and year out, now looking to just get his footing back on the mound in Major League Baseball. He goes 3 1/3 innings pitched, only gave up 3 hits, but 4 runs. Now, having said those 4 runs, only one of those technically were earned. 3 strikeouts, 4 walks. He's got to clean that up, and certainly he does know that. If we're looking at the lineup itself for the Dodgers, Ohtani, Betts, Freeman, Hernandez, Lux, Kiermaier late in the innings, Barnes and Ahmed, 7, 8, and 9, they're not going to give you too much trouble. But my goodness, that 1 through 5, 1 through 6 on the Los Angeles Dodgers is absolutely spectacular. Ohtani doesn't get a base hit yesterday. Betts comes back hot as all get out still. Now hitting .310 on the season. Freddie Freeman got 3 base knocks, and it still wasn't enough. Why? Because when you have a young pitcher coming back in Walker Buehler, just trying to find his way, sure, the 3-0 lead was absolutely fantastic, but that 3-0 lead was evaporating already by the second inning, as it was 3-3. Now, late run in the 7th inning propelled the Milwaukee Brewers to that victory. But if we are looking at the outset and the standings now in the National League West, every single game matters. Can you imagine being 7-3 in your last 10 ball games and losing multiple games to the teams behind you? That's happening right now. The Diamondbacks and the Padres, both 2.5 games back right now on the Los Angeles Dodgers. But that win yesterday for the Milwaukee Brewers, it used to be talking about the Philadelphia Phillies as having the biggest lead in the National League and being able to walk away with an easy division title. Are we saying that now about the Milwaukee Brewers? You took behind them, the St. Louis Cardinals, 3-7 in their last 10 games, loses of 4 straight games. And even the Reds, who have actually won their last 4 games, still sit 8.5 games back in that division. So it looks like the Milwaukee Brewers might have the easiest path at this time, and appropriately so. We just talked about some teams there in the NL West. I mean, my goodness, the Dodgers getting their star players back, trying to fend off the Arizona Diamondbacks, who last year were the National League champions. 11-4 victory yesterday. We started off the show in the 7-7, having some fun, because I was actually saying, you know what? If you're going to take a plus 200 dog price, maybe it's the Colorado Rockies yesterday. Yeah, that was done quick. 4 runs in the bottom of the first, 1 run in the bottom of the second inning, a 5-0 lead right away for the Diamondbacks over the Colorado Rockies, and it was a done deal. Montgomery was on the mound. He actually improves now to 8-6 on the season. But this is incredible. When I told you yesterday, the guy just isn't a good pitcher. His analytical numbers were supremely high. His ERA was ridiculous. He goes 6 innings, 3 earned runs, 8 Ks. Do you know what his ERA actually improved to? 6.25. Which tells you how hot those Arizona Diamondbacks bats are. If you're going to get a pitching performance out of a pitcher that's underwhelming this season, if he's just going to give up 3 runs over 6 innings, the Diamondbacks are going to beat you up. They are. Because yesterday, Gordon lasted 2/3 of an innings pitched and gave up 4 runs here. Lambert comes in, gives up a run. Molina comes up and gives up a run. Pint, 4 earned runs. Lawrence, 1 run. I mean, my goodness, this team just comes at you in absolute waves. And let me tell you something on this. You take a look at that final score, guys. It's 11-4, and you figure everything went right for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They had 9 hits in that game, scored 11 runs. Take a look at the runners in scoring position. 2 of 15. Let's just say if they were average, did they score 21 runs yesterday against the Colorado Rockies? And also keep in mind, where was this baseball game played? It wasn't in Colorado. It was in Arizona, in a dome, with the humidifier, cooling off those baseballs, to say the least. And they still were able to get 11 runs. This is a hot Major League Baseball team. The only thing you're hoping for, if you're the Dodgers and the Padres, is that this team does cool off by the end of the season. We understand hitting comes in cycles. Pitching comes in cycles. Team mojo, wins and losses sometimes come in cycles here. You hope that they just didn't peak a little bit too early. Another game we told you about yesterday, and I even sang a little Tom Petty right on this program. Free falling, baby. I'm free falling. That is your Pittsburgh Pirates losing yet another game and dropping to 56-64 on the season. But I don't even want to talk about the Padres. We'll see if Paul Skeens can still be in that Cy Young race down the stretch, but we know what the Pirates needed to go along with his run. They needed a solid record to keep them in that wild card race, but now looks like they're going to have to get out a pair of binoculars. Yesterday's victory for the Padres, 8-2 over the Pittsburgh Pirates. They now improve to 69-53. Starters on the mound. Martin Perez isn't even a good pitcher. He went 5 1/3 innings pitched yesterday, only 1 earned run. Boy, if you're going to get that out of Martin Perez down the stretch, watch out for the San Diego Padres. You take a look at Keller, who's actually a solid veteran pitcher, having a decent season. He lasts 5 innings against that Padres lineup, 8 earned runs against them, which included 2 home runs. Looking at this lineup, what a great trade it was to get Luis Arraez at the top of that lineup. Another 2 hits yesterday, hitting over 300, the perfect catalyst for your roster. Profar gets a base hit. Cronenworth, 3 RBI, along with that moonshot home run that he hit. Manny Machado actually doesn't get a base hit along with Xander Bogaerts, and they still put up 8 runs and 10 hits yesterday. And watch out for Mr. Merrill. Another 2 RBI yesterday on that roster. This is one of those teams, once again, you have to watch out for. And if, again, we are looking at that number in the West, the Dodgers, 71 wins, the best in the National League. They should be up 5, 6, 7, 8 games. And if you take a look at the NL West odds right now with the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and Padres in that order, you see the odds are actually a little bit different here. You have the Dodgers at a minus 470 price because they should win that division. But here come the Padres, plus 650, and the Diamondbacks at a plus 750 price. Typically, you're going to see those numbers for what? A team with a 5 or a 6 game lead. That's how dominant the Dodgers we expect to be down the stretch, having that huge price point. But is anybody out there thinking to themselves going, now hold on. The Diamondbacks have a little bit of a pedigree here of playing great baseball down the stretch and doing damage in the National League by knocking off the Phillies last year. And oh my goodness, I mean, you take me back to last October. The Phillies just needed to win 1 Game 6, 1 Game 7 at home at Citizens Bank Park and weren't able to do it. The Diamondbacks have had their backs up against the wall in the past. And then you take a look at the Padres, identical records with them. So you have 2 teams, 2.5 games back of the Dodgers, and getting a plus 650 price and a plus 750 price out of those 2 teams. And it's also, I don't really think we're actually getting lightning in a bottle from those teams. They are absolutely solid. Now, one team also that's hoping that they can catch a little bit more lightning in a bottle down the stretch and finding their offense, that's the Atlanta Braves. And boy, oh boy, I was saying, you know what? Let's just go into this game and say, take the under. 2 offenses that really can't get out of their own way. The Atlanta Braves dropped 13 runs yesterday. The ball was, where were we playing? At Wrigley Field yesterday with a 25-mile-an-hour wind blowing out to dead center field? No, we weren't. But 11 hits later, the Braves absolutely pummeled the Giants. And coming into the series, the Giants, if they would have won the series, would have moved up in that wild card race. They're now a distance back at this point. More hot topics, more Major League Baseball on the way. It's the early line, and we'll be right back.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFC selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Right back at it here in the early line, in the first hour. It's your boy Donnie Rightside here, having some fun talking Major League Baseball action. And look, again, the concept is right. Let's not forget about baseball in September. We got to keep that torture. You know me. I love my Major League Baseball. I'm not going to let it disappear, even though when a lot of the betting content does start to shift to the NFL and NCAA football, and rightfully so. We're still going to have some fun. And also, by the way, a little bit later in the show, we're going to have some guests on to talk some WNBA action. Did you know, people? Did you know the WNBA is back tonight on a Thursday? We're going to get into that as well. But Major League Baseball was hot yesterday, and so was your boy. 6 RBI props yesterday, 4-2 overall, plus money in my pocket. And the reason I brought that up is because one of the guys I thought that would get an RBI, Yordan Alvarez, DH for the Houston Astros, 0 for 2 yesterday, 2 walks, tough scene, didn't cash in. But the Houston Astros did is they keep their streak alive, winning 8 straight ball games and going up against the Tampa Bay Rays, knocking the Rays back down to 59-61. The Houston Astros, 65-55. It feels like it wasn't long ago where I would take this microphone every single day on the Astros and tell you, this team's dead. Stick a fork in them. They're never going to get right. They continue to get injured. We don't know who their starting pitchers are here. And yet they are going to lead the way in the AL West down the stretch. This is one of those teams where you say playoff pedigree, championship pedigree. Whether they cheated or not is irrelevant. This team knows how to get it done in the biggest moments, and they're doing that now. I didn't think this team was going to make the playoffs. I thought this team might be 10 games back of the Seattle Mariners as we're talking right now on August 15th, not actually being in the race to win the AL West, because if we're taking a look at the standings right now, they're up 2.5 games on the Mariners. You got to be kidding me. Look at those price points here. The AL West to win, a -370 price, as if it's already locked up for the Astros to win the West. The pennant, plus 490 in a World Series at an 11-1 price. If you're looking at that game overall, I wasn't. And again, the handicap for me was, yes, I think it's a cheap price on the Astros to win that ball game yesterday, but sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. I didn't know if Blanco was going to give the Astros a good start. 6 innings pitched, no earned runs. Phenomenal. But how about this? I thought Littell would be a little bit hampered at home, even though it is a true pitcher's ballpark that we always talk about. 5 innings pitched, 1 earned run, lowers his ERA to 3.89. You should win that game if you're Tampa Bay. But now the Tampa Bay Rays starting to slip back as well. Look at the American League East here. The Tampa Bay Rays, usually a playoff perennial contestant here. 59-61, 2 games under 500. Oh, how far are they back? 12 games overall. If I'm flipping over to the wild card standings right now for the American League, I slide all the way down and find, hey, look, the Rays, 6.5 games back out of that final playoff spot, which means you got to jump the Mariners, the Red Sox, and the Royals to do that. And also, did the Rays give themselves any leeway at the deadline? No. They didn't really make any moves that were going to help the team. They traded away a player, got a player back, so it was almost a wash. The Tampa Bay Rays this season, maybe something that we're not going to be able to watch, but the Houston Astros, certainly something that we're going to be able to factor in. Now, if we are sticking with and staying with the AL West race, we see that 2.5 game lead now for the Seattle Mariners trying to fight to get back up into play. They took on the Detroit Tigers yesterday in a much more comfortable atmosphere. Not 16 total runs that Detroit's going to put up. But how about this? They go from 15 runs, the Detroit Tigers, down to 3 runs yesterday, but it was still enough to beat the Seattle Mariners. The problem with the Mariners, no matter what guest we bring on, myself, Ben Stevens, the issues always continue to arise. Are the Seattle Mariners going to be good enough at the plate to make a challenge in the AL West? And over the past 2 nights, not necessarily. The Mariners now sit at 63-58. 2.5 games back of the Houston Astros. But if we looked at the game yesterday, Will was on the mound. He was one of the better analytical pitchers that you can have. And if I told you before that game started, now granted, this game did go to extra innings, Will was going to take the mound, 7 innings pitched, 4 hits, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and no walks. Do you know his ERA right now? 2.06. If you can just get some hitting for the Mariners, it could work out in their favor. They just couldn't do it yesterday. 10 innings, 5 total hits, and 2 earned runs is never going to be enough. And you know what hurts even worse? Seattle had the 2-0 lead entering into the 8th inning and gave up 2 runs in the 8th inning, then couldn't score in the top of the 9th or the top of the 10th inning. You tack on that 1 run in the bottom of the 10th inning, and away the Detroit Tigers go. Those are deflating losses. And also, sometimes we look at teams that can score a lot of runs here without any production with runners in scoring position. You just start to load up the bases and what could have been. We talked about the Arizona Diamondbacks a little bit earlier in the show. Take a look yesterday. 2 of 12 with runners in scoring position. 2 of 12. A base hit here, a productive out there. You're scoring at least 4 to 5 runs. The Mariners only get 2 runs, and that's going to be the detriment. The same thing we tried to improve on the Mariners at the deadline, and I liked what they did. Randy Arozarena goes out. Hey, he's going to help us out. Now, granted, Randy Arozarena, one of those bright spots for the Rays for quite some time, gets moved. Like, okay, maybe this can reinvigorate his offense. He's only hitting .222 on the season. Randy Arozarena yesterday, guys, 0 of 4 at the plate. That's not going to help you out at that point. You needed that guy to instill some fear in the lineup. First got Robles, 0 for 5. Polanco, 1 for 4. Arozarena, 0 for 3. Cal Raleigh, 0 for 3. Look, you can't start out. Your first 4 batters in the lineup are supposed to be your best 4 batters and supposed to carry that team. They weren't able to do that at all yesterday, so the questions will still be there on the Mariners. Can they be effective? Can they make the playoffs? And can they win the AOS? For my money, I don't think that's going to happen. Minnesota and Kansas City yesterday, 2 teams fighting for those final wild card spots here. That game ends up with a victory early in the day for the Royals, 4-1. You take a look at Reagan's. Talked to Craig Mitch yesterday, said this guy can probably be a dominant pitcher today. It's good to have him on the mound. It was great to have him on the mound yesterday. 7 innings pitched, 5 hits, only 1 earned run, 8 strikeouts, and no free passes. But how about Varland? Was one of those targets I thought you could get after. And I was even saying, Vinny Pasquantino probably a legitimate chance to get an RBI as well as MJ Melendez. Well, Melendez went 0 for 4 in that game. But how about Vinny P? 1 of 4, but was able to secure an RBI yesterday and cash in that ticket. But Varland, 6 innings pitched, 8 hits, 3 earned runs. That's as good as you're going to get from him. So the Kansas City Royals still staying in it. How about this? 66 wins for the Royals. The Minnesota Twins just ahead of them here in the wild card race. The Royals with 1 more win than we do the opposite side with the Twins. But we are actually, no, I got that. Look, I must be dyslexic this morning here. Come on now. Let's get that fixed. 67 wins for the Twins, 66 wins for the Orioles. But if the season ended today, how about that? The Minnesota Twins and the Kansas City Royals would be in the playoffs. Baseball down the stretch in August. You say down the stretch in August, Donnie. You still got a whole month of September. A lot of teams will start to make runs right now. It's the haves and the have-nots in baseball. What a fun time to make some money as well. It's the early line on a Thursday. I'm Donnie Rightside, and we will be back after these short words.
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on SportsGrid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
There is going to be an energy to game time decisions that you will feel night in and night out. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. I want this to be the place that people come to. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
One change in the legislature in Missouri is that this guy who's just totally against sports betting there is not going away.
This has been in progress since last fall. They got 300 and some thousand signatures. All they needed was 170, but those were all certified by local election boards. That had to be done by earlier this month. By tomorrow, the Secretary of State has to verify all those signatures.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Thursday Night Football. And by the way, just in a few weeks, the boys will be live in studio for Thursday Night Football. Donnie Rightside, yep, that's me. Kevin Walsh, Joe Lisi, full game action, could be. Can't wait for it. And by the way, opening day, Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, my goodness. Then that Friday kicks off with the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers from Brazil on a Friday night. So it's a perfect segue. Why? Because the Philadelphia Eagles are playing tonight against the New England Patriots. Now, if you want to use air quotes, go ahead, quotes, considering the Philadelphia Eagles playing tonight. This is what's crazy to me. Look, I understand that NFL teams put way more stock in joint practices than they do actually in the games that they're going to play for preseason. The Philadelphia Eagles traveled up to New England and to Foxborough to take on the Patriots in a practice. Typically, though, it's 2 practices, then the preseason game. The Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots only practiced one time this week, and the Philadelphia Eagles themselves, probably with the Patriots as well, just had a walkthrough practice yesterday. So you would think that the Philadelphia Eagles then go, okay, second game, dress rehearsal, let's get the starters out there. And I'm not talking about playing for a full half, but get a quarter of work in. I understand how hard they work in training camp. I understand that you're not game planning for a regular season game, and you technically game plan a little bit more for those practices because they're live sessions 11 on 11. You want to take care of each other. You don't want to get anybody hurt. I understand that. But now let's take a look at the odds tonight for this football game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the New England Patriots. You might find yourself and say, okay, opening line at the FanDuel Sportsbook when this game was out was -3 for the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, makes some sense. The Eagles starters are more talented than New England. If you go starters versus starters, seconds versus seconds, the Philadelphia Eagles would probably win this football game. Now you take a look at the lines. You see the graphic on the screen. The Patriots, almost a 3-point favorite at -2.5. Now, granted, this didn't change a week and a half ago. The Eagles were the favorite in this football game early in this week with the anticipation of Jalen Hurts, of Saquon Barkley, of that wide receiver trio being out there for the Eagles, Dallas Goedert, the offensive line. You figure they would be able to say, okay, at the end of the first quarter, if it's starters versus starters, what's going to happen? The Eagles will probably have the lead, therefore they should be able to carry it with the second half and also into the third quarter and fourth quarter. I don't know if that's the case here. This line swing for me tonight, what does that say? I don't think the Philadelphia Eagles are playing anybody tonight then at this point, because there'd be no reason for basically a 6-point swing in the favor of the Patriots if word didn't get out that the Philadelphia Eagles were not going to play their starters. So hear me out on this. You're telling me the offensive starters, now the defensive starters did get a little bit of run in game number 1 for the Eagles against the Baltimore Ravens, snapping that long run of the Ravens never losing preseason games. Great, hold the trophy for that, doesn't mean anything. But are we led to believe here that Jalen Hurts and that offense are not going to take a single snap now in the preseason? Because quite frankly, I don't really think anybody's going to play in week 3 of the preseason. That's usually the card-carrying option that these teams have. Game 3 is just a shutdown. Maybe the last 3 or 4 guys to make the roster, they'll get some burn. But if you're going to have your entire offensive line, your entire backfield, your entire starting wide receiving core and tight end not going to be playing any preseason games. And again, I just told you to start this episode off right here, so this segment, to tell you that, look, you get more out of practice than you do in the games, but there's still something about going through that whole game day, notion, getting on the bus, hitting your playbook, stretching with the team before the game, that whole mindset of getting ready to play a football game. The Eagles are just going to do that against the Green Bay Packers in Brazil, game number 1. That's going to be an interesting scenario if things don't work out their direction. Total in this game, 35.5, 36. At the FanDuel Sportsbook right now, it does sit at 35.5. So, again, we're not expecting a lot of points, and rightfully so. But the Philadelphia Eagles and their expectations on the season are quite high. And I understand. Coach, general manager, they know best. And what would be worse? Hey, we're going to get a series or 2 in against the New England Patriots, and Devonta Smith goes down with a hamstring injury. Now, granted, he could get hurt in practice. He can get hurt in game number 1. But some of those things the coach can never live down. I can't fault a coach for saying the biggest option we have is just to not play and be healthy for game number one, it does make some sense. But also, if you're the New England Patriots, what are you going to stay healthy for anyway? We don't have high expectations. A new head football coach, you better put that, oomph in those early games to give some of these kids some run. So by the time they get ready for game number one and that hellish start that looks like the Patriots are going to have here. Yeah, look at that. Make the playoffs at a plus 920 price. 24-1. That should be a Super Bowl price on an average football team. 24-1 just to win your division, at a 3-1 price here to have a worst record in the NFL. Who would have thought that under Bill Belichick for all those decades here, that they would be in shambles like they are now? But it's preseason football. It's a Thursday night. You're going to watch that kickoff rule. If no Philadelphia Eagles participate in this game, so be it. We'll still be watching on a primetime game. But from my perspective, and me being an Eagles fan, I wish those starters would get just a little bit of run here out in these streets. Doesn't look like that's going to happen tonight. Maybe the Patriots pick up a victory. Hour number 2 is on its way next. Keep the dial right here on the SportsGrid Network.